Nepal, 2009. Kiotti Shesta lived in Nepal with her family. Since childhood, Khyati had been very bright in her studies. She had already decided at a young age that she wanted to become a pilot, and she studied with that goal in mind. In short, when she said something, she meant it. She passed her 10th grade exams with great marks, and her parents were overjoyed with her results. They thought, yes, our daughter will go far. She will study hard and make something of herself. They decided they would invest in her future. She deserved their time, their money, and all their support. Since Khyati had planned to go abroad for college after completing 12th grade, her parents had been saving up for her education for a long time, which, honestly, is very sweet when you think about it. Khyati's family wasn't rich, not at all. They were your typical middle-class family, with big dreams and strong hopes for their daughter. Now, let's talk a bit more about where they lived. Kyotti Shesta and her family lived in the Biratnagar area of Nepal. They were staying in a rented house. The man who owned the house that Kyotti's family was renting had no relation to them. He wasn't even Nepali. His name was Shrestha. Viren's real name was something else. He was 43 years old and worked as a science teacher. Originally from Tarjanik, he had moved Nepal in 1985. After spending many years there, he had settled down and built a house. He earned decently through teaching in a school in Kathmandu. After coming to Nepal, he even changed his surname from Pradhan to Shrestha, likely to avoid too many questions from locals and to blend in better. Viren and Kyotti's family had been living under the same roof for several years, which naturally made them quite close. Viren had even tutored Khyati a few times. Being a school teacher, he also gave tuition to other children, and Khyati had attended some of those sessions too. However, things began to change around the time Khyati entered 11th grade, or was about to head to college. Viren started facing some financial problems. To deal with his financial crisis, he decided to sell the house, the same house Kyotti's family was renting. Viren spoke with Kyotti's grandfather and explained that they would need to move out because he was planning to sell the property. This must have been difficult for everyone, given how many years they had lived there. But strangely enough, the timing kind of worked out. Khyati had secured admission in a college in Kathmandu, and her family was living in Biratnagar, which is nearly 370 kilometers away from the capital. So her parents thought, why not move to Kathmandu altogether? It'll be easier for our daughter's college life. They rented a new house in Kathmandu, and Khyati got admitted to the National College of Research. She was doing well there, continuing her studies seriously and preparing for entrance exams for a foreign university. But outside of academics, Khyati also loved to travel. So, on June 5, 2009, Khyati received a message on her phone. According to the message, she had won a lucky draw organized by a women's magazine. As a first prize, she had won 20,000 Nepali rupees, equivalent to about 12,000 Indian rupees, along with a free travel package to Pokhara. The package was fully paid for. Whether she traveled by bus, train, or ate out, it was all covered. Everything was included. Now, Pokhara is one of the most beautiful and popular tourist destinations in Nepal. If you've ever been there, you'll know what a dream it is for anyone who loves travel. There's so much to see and explore. Naturally, Khyati was thrilled. Not only had she won a cash prize, but also a free trip. She replied to the message, and almost immediately, she received a phone call from a representative of the so-called women's magazine. The woman on the phone told Khyati that to claim her prize money and Pokhara ticket, she would need to come in person to a specific address. Now, obviously, this sounded sketchy. Who asked someone to come to a random address to collect a prize? She told her parents about the prize, thinking it could help with her plans to study abroad. The address she was given was just a few hours away from their home, so her parents agreed to let her go, but only on one condition. Their house help, Ram, would accompany her for safety. Khyati and Ram set off and eventually reached Patli Street, the location she had been given. There, they met a female representative who told them it would take some time to verify the travel ticket and hand over prize money. So Khyati, probably not wanting to waste Ram's time, told him he could return home and that she'd come back herself once everything was done. After that, the female representative took Khyati to her home, saying the documents needed to be verified there. As soon as Khyati stepped inside the house, she noticed a man sitting on a chair. That man was none other than Viren Shrestha. Khyati was shocked to see him there. Viren, too, pretended to be surprised. He looked at her and asked, "What are you doing here?" Khyati, still confused, explained everything about the message, the prize money, and the trip to Pokhara. Viren nodded and said that he'd been working with a magazine to help with prize logistics. He acted as if this were just a coincidence. After chatting for a while, Viren offered Khyati a cold drink. Khyati had known Viren for years, since her childhood. So, without any hesitation, she accepted the cold drink he offered her. But what she didn't know was that the drink was laced with sleeping pills. Viren took advantage of the fact that Khyati trusted him. Khyati had left home in the morning, but now it was evening and she still hadn't returned. Her parents began to grow anxious. At most, this whole thing should have taken 3 to 4 hours. Before leaving, Khyati had shared the phone number of the woman from the magazine with her grandfather. So, her father tried calling that number. He called again and again, but no one picked up. That's when the family began to panic. They started searching for Khyati themselves. They looked in nearby streets, checked every possible place she could have gone, and called her friends to ask if she had shown up at anyone's house. Suddenly, Khyati's grandfather received a text message, and after reading it, their fear grew tenfold. The message said Khyati had been kidnapped, and if the family didn't pay 10 lakh rupees, she would be killed. Khyati's father was horrified. He immediately told his wife about the message and considered calling the police. But then he remembered something. For the past few months, several children have been kidnapped in Nepal, and in many of those cases, when families contacted police, the children ended up dead. So, they decided not to involve the police. Instead, in a fit of panic and desperation, they lashed out at their house servant, Ram, and sent him out of the house. But that was just their frustration talking. They were heartbroken and terrified. A little while later, they calmed down, apologized to Ram, and explained everything to him. Ram understood. He knew the family was in distress, so he didn't take offense. He told Khyati's parents that he would help them in any way he could. Now the family was caught in a dilemma. Should they go to the police or pay the ransom? After hours of discussion, they decided no, they wouldn't risk their daughter's life. She meant everything to them. As mentioned earlier, the family had already been saving money for Khyati's education abroad. They began pulling together funds from everywhere they could, asking relatives, selling valuables, and even mortgaging their land. And somehow, they managed to gather the full 10 lakh rupees. Now, they were simply waiting for the next instructions from the kidnapper. The following morning, Khyati's grandfather received another message. It said, "Bring the money to Butwal." Butwal is a town located about 270 kilometers from Kathmandu. Without wasting a second, Khyati's father grabbed the cash, boarded a bus, and began the long journey to Butwal. And just as he reached the city, another message came in. The next message said, "From Butwal, go to Chitwan," which was another 150 kilometers away. With no other option, Khyati's father continued the journey and reached Chitwan. But again, he received another message instructing him to head to Sonali. And once he reached Sonali, he received what appeared to be the final message. It read, "If you want your daughter back, cross the border and come to Darjeeling with the money. And do not even think of informing the police." This left Khyati's parents utterly confused. Why would someone take their daughter out of Nepal? Why Darjeeling, of all places? Still, determined to save their daughter, they arranged for a flight and made their way to Darjeeling. But just when they thought they were about to reach her, they received another message, this time with the address of a hotel back in Nepal. Yes, they were being sent back. The message also said, "Do not come yourselves. Only send Ram with the money to the hotel. If you try to show up or alert the police, you'll never see your daughter again. Once we get the money, she'll be sent back to you." Exhausted but with no choice, Khyati's parents agreed. They gave the money to Ram and headed back to Kathmandu. So Ram, now alone, went to the hotel with the money. There He met a man who took the bag of cash from him, and the moment Ram saw him, he recognized who it was. It was Viren. Now, things were starting to make some sense. Before Ram left, Viren warned him, "Don't tell anyone what you saw. If you do exactly as I say, Khyati will be safely returned to your home in Kathmandu." Ram left the hotel quietly and returned to Khyati's parents in Kathmandu. He told them everything. And the three of them, Khyati's parents and Ram, believed that now that the ransom had been paid, surely Khyati would be back soon. But even after they reached home, Khyati did not return. Her father kept calling and messaging her phone over and over, but by now, the number had been switched off. Finally, as a last resort, they called the police. They told the entire story of their daughter's kidnapping. From the initial scam call to the ransom drop-off, all the strange locations and the man who took the money. The police were furious at first, angry that the parents hadn't contacted them right away. They questioned the family thoroughly. "Why did you travel to so many locations without informing anyone?" Khyati's father simply said, "We didn't know what else to do." Then the police turned to Ram. "Did you notice anything unusual during the entire process?" They asked him. And that's when the story began to unfold. That's when Ram finally revealed the truth. He said, "Yes, the man I met was Shrestha, the owner of our old rented house." The police immediately began tracing Viren. They already had his phone number, thanks to Khyati's parents. Their first step was to check his new residence. But when they got there, they found something shocking. Viren hadn't been seen at that house for months. In fact, the house was almost empty. There wasn't a single valuable item inside. No furniture, no household belongings, nothing. Just one old wooden cot. The police then began retracing every location that Khyati's parents had visited during the ransom journey. They checked each place, hoping to find a clue. Days passed, and still nothing concrete. But then, one day, quite far from Kathmandu, police stumbled upon a decapitated head in a remote area. It was badly decomposed. The police didn't want to immediately inform Khyati's parents. They feared the news would completely shatter them. So they decided to wait for a forensic confirmation before making anything public. Meanwhile, over the next several days, the police kept discovering body parts in different locations. In one place, they found pieces of 2 hands. In another, a portion of a leg. Slowly, it became horrifyingly clear what had happened. Finally, 18 days later, the police managed to track down and arrest Viren. He was brought in for interrogation, and that's when Viren began to confess. He told his full story. His real name was Virendra Pradhan, and he had once belonged to a wealthy family. He had been making good money from his job as a school teacher in Nepal. In fact, over time, he had even managed to build 2 houses in the country. But Viren had one destructive addiction, gambling. At first, he was winning large amounts in Kathmandu's casinos. But then, slowly, he started losing everything. To cover his losses, he began selling off all his household possessions, one item at a time. Still, he continued gambling. The losses piled up. Eventually, his debts grew so large, he was forced to sell his house, the very same one Khyati's family had once rented. Even after selling the house, Viren's gambling debts weren't fully cleared. At one point, he thought about simply running away from Kathmandu. But the casino owners warned him, "If you leave without paying your dues, we'll track you down and kill you." Now, Viren saw only one way out, and that one way out was crime. At first, Viren thought about stealing, but that didn't work out. He failed at every turn, and when nothing else seemed possible, one specific detail came to his mind: Khyati. He remembered how Khyati's parents had been saving every rupee to send her abroad for college. He even knew that they had bought some land in Khyati's name for that very purpose. That's when Viren came up with a plan to kidnap Khyati. But there was a problem. Viren couldn't approach her directly because she knew him too well. So he decided to involve one of his students in the plan, a girl named Marina. Together, Viren and Marina set the entire trap. The fake lucky draw, the magazine story, the free poker trip. Initially, Viren's plan was just to scare Khyati and extort money. But then, Fear took over him. What if she escapes and reports everything to police? So he decided to drug her, and once she was unconscious, things took a horrific turn. Viren dismembered her body and, over the course of several days, began scattering the pieces within a 17-kilometer radius around Kathmandu, in forests, rivers, and even along roads. Viren knew the body parts might be discovered eventually, but he hoped they would decompose by then, and that if pieces turned up in different places, the police would get confused and might even drop the case altogether. After Viren's confession, the police also arrested Marina, but what shocked everyone was Marina's complete lack of remorse. She didn't seem moved by Khyati's death at all. Her only concern was that she shouldn't get a severe punishment. In her defense, Marina said, "I only spoke to Khyati on the phone. I didn't do anything else. I just hope the court gives me a small punishment. I know this is not easy, but I hope you have mercy on me. You know, I did my part. You have my glory. You know, I just watched it happen." She was actually laughing while saying this. After that, it was forensically confirmed that the body parts the police had found indeed belonged to Khyati. And with that, Khyati's parents had to finally hear the most devastating truth. Their daughter was no more. The news outraged the entire student community. Many began protesting, demanding the death penalty for Viren. The court case went on for quite some time, but eventually the verdict came in. Marina was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and Viren was sentenced to 39 years of rigorous imprisonment. A bright young girl lost her life, and the man responsible was the one who should have guided her, a teacher. And with that, the case of Kiotti Shesta came to an end.